Bernie or Biden, that is the choice. Now that the results are in from South Carolina. Super Tuesdays tomorrow, plus coronavirus, more cases. Is it going to be a pandemic in the U.S., and is the media being fair in how they report on this? That and more coming up on the Buck Sexton Show. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. I am back from the left coast, from the west coast. It was quite a Friday night on the Bill Maher show. I'll give you my full readout on what that was like and what I think of how all that went down later on today. We have some important business to get to, big stories in politics, big things going on with our fight against the COVID-19, the coronavirus panic/pandemic. It's a pandemic globally, I think you could say. Is it a pandemic in the U.S.? Not yet. What can we say about that? And then if I have time, also, I'm seeing more and more about drag queen story hour for toddlers, which I'll either get to today or tomorrow. But first, let's just get to the lessons of South Carolina, shall we? And this is in part, I'm leading with politics today because I think we've heard enough of the scaremongering and the fear-mongering from the media, so at least we can divert from that for a moment. Divert from all the stories about how Trump is going to allow the country to crumble and we're all going to die from this virus. The stuff that's being said out there is reckless and irresponsible. And we do have new things to say about the political scene. We don't have a whole lot of new to say yet about coronavirus. So we'll get into that second. First, let's just see what we have here from Joe Biden, who in very predictable fashion, according to all the polls, this was what everyone thought was going to happen. Joe Biden is now the victor, has won a clear and decisive contest in South Carolina. Here is what old man Joe had to say about it. Play 21, please, producer Mark.
We're seeing the beginning of community spread, which, as you mentioned, Allison.
Joe Biden, not Joe Fauci.
Enthusiasm does not necessarily translate into votes. You saw more people voted yesterday in South Carolina, I'm told, than I think in the primary than any other time, the largest turnout. And, I won every single solitary county. Every single solitary county. Doesn't mean that holds for every state. But, I think people aren't looking for a revolution. They're looking for results. They're looking for who can not only beat Donald Trump, but who can keep a Democratic House of Representatives and who can bring along a Democratic Senate. And that means you got to be able to compete in almost every state from the top of the ticket. And it's just a matter of fact. If you're going to try to win a seat in Georgia or North Carolina or South Carolina or Florida, who do you want on the top of the ticket? So I think I think the confusion is that this and that I don't have any support of young people. I do. I got about 30% of the people that are anyway. So the point is, I think this is just a long game here, but people want results. They're not looking for revolution. They want results. They want a return of decency. They want to be able to get things done. And I have a record that is far superior on those two issues than Bernie's.
It's also predictable in a sense, isn't it? For all the talk of the initial diversity in the Democrat field for this presidential election, which is now, this is the antithesis of a diverse field. You have three of the oldest, most curmudgeonly white dudes on the planet who are the choice for the Democratic Party. That's it. They are the only choice. They are your option now. Yeah, Klobuchar is still hanging in there, but nobody really thinks she's going to do anything. As we know, Mayor Pete bowed out, Pete Buttigieg, after South Carolina. He won in Iowa, which it does go to show you that the Iowa caucuses should not be first for the Democrat primary. It does not make sense. It gives an advantage to somebody early on who may not be even a serious candidate. I mean, for the person to win Iowa, Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, to drop out before Super Tuesday just goes to show you that Iowa doesn't really matter as a nomination contest, okay? I love the people of Iowa. If you're listening, you live in Iowa. This is not about Iowa not being a great state. I hear wonderful things. I hear there's great towns. But now we get to this point where they're going to try to tell us that this isn't somehow just a replay of 2016, where you have this uninspiring, boring, ultra-establishment, classic career politician, Joe Biden, who they're just hoping he is the vessel for all of the DNCs, all their horses and all their men, putting Joe Biden back together again, right? They're just hoping that this is going to be a guy that can take them across the finish line based on the power of the Democrat Party's propaganda apparatus and the messaging that they'll be able to accomplish via their accomplices in the media. That's what we really think. That's what we're really being told here. Everything else before this was kind of a waste of time. It's the socialist left of the Democrat Party fighting against the establishment social democrat, maybe. That's what Bernie and Biden represent. Bloomberg hasn't been doing very well in any of the recent polls. He's still on the ballot. I mean, Super Tuesday's tomorrow. So a lot of what we say today, or a lot of the questions that we raise right now, will be answered tomorrow. We'll know tomorrow whether or not this is something that, whether or not our assumptions and thoughts about this election contest are in fact in any way accurate. Here's what Bloomberg has to say, given where he is at this stage of things. Play 7 here.
You might say I'm the un-Trump, and if you just think about it, he breaks promises, I keep them. He divides people, I unite them. He's a climate denier. I'm an engineer. I actually believe in science. Imagine that. He tweets, I follow facts and respect data and tells the truth. He looks out for people who inherited their wealth, like him. And I started with nothing but my parents teaching me hard work and ethical behavior. And I'll tell you, I will raise taxes on the wealthy, including me, to get the revenue we need to start fighting income inequality and paying for infrastructure and investing in emergency preparedness and extending health care and improving education and all the other things we need to strengthen our great country. My whole career has been as a doer, and I believe we need less talk, less division, less tweeting.
Less tweeting. I'm a doer. I believe in you. Oh, gosh. Uninspiring. And I've had to recalibrate a little bit of my thinking on this. To be fair to the truth, which is something that I always aspire to do, as someone who had been a lifelong New Yorker, pretty much, a few interruptions to go work at the CIA and such, and college, I had thought for a long time Bloomberg was an effective mayor, and I think he was for a very liberal city, he was okay. But if we're really going to judge this by the numbers, how much better is Bloomberg really than de Blasio, who is a moron and a leftist? How much better is Bloomberg really? Was he really at that job? And if you can have de Blasio in charge of this city, in charge of New York City, and the whole thing doesn't fall apart, maybe Bloomberg was just kind of lucky, or he was just in the right place at the right time as a mayor for the rise of a city that was the center of so much unbelievable wealth creation, really the greatest explosion of wealth in any city, certainly in modern times. In terms of you add together all the Wall Street, all the financial sector, all the stuff that's happened in the last 20 years. But here's why I think Bloomberg matters. Because now people are going to have this choice going into Super Tuesday tomorrow. And Bernie's supposed to blow it out in California. I was just in California. They are nuts. The people there are, there are lots of Californians who are just crazy. They don't understand how the world works. They believe pie in the sky is real. They think that Bernie's going to be effective, a good president, that the rich won't still be rich, that everybody's going to have great health care. I sometimes, and this was a little bit of the feeling I had on the Bill Maher show, it's like I'm speaking to toddlers. You're just like, they just don't know anything. I don't know what else to say. It's not really possible to reason with somebody who believes that Bernie Sanders has good and workable ideas. But Bernie's going to do very well in California. He's going to do very well in a number of other very large states. So I'm not sitting here telling you that I knew Biden was going to win South Carolina. We all did. But because Buttigieg has dropped out and now there's all this additional pressure to get other dropouts on the Democrat side, Klobuchar, and Bloomberg may very well decide that he's going, and he won't do this before Super Tuesday. He's spending a ton of money, has been spending a ton of money in recent days. Why won't you vote for me? Here's money. Tom Steyer, I think they estimated, got, I think it was $3,000 he spent something like $3,000 was it a vote or a delegate? He spent some absurd amount of money to get. He dropped out too. That's why I'm bringing him up. He's done. So Buttigieg is out. Tom Steyer is out. And now you got Klobuchar, Bloomberg, Biden, Bernie. Biden is the youngest serious presidential male contender left. Think about that. Biden's the youngest. These candidates are too old for this job. We all know this. We all understand this. But the Democrats are desperate. They're desperate right now. They think that whatever they have to do to defeat Donald Trump is inherently justified. I think you'll see Bloomberg's billions go behind Biden pretty soon, unless Bloomberg has some big surprise finish on Super Tuesday. And then you'll effectively have the ultra establishment candidate, a former vice president under a still popular former Democratic president, Barack Obama, who, is not an impressive guy. And although I will note, I haven't said this before, I'm very critical of Joe Biden a lot of the time, and I think that that's fair. And I do not think he's an intellectually impressive fellow, nor do I think he's a good leader. Putting all that aside for a moment, I do give the guy a lot of credit for, given the tragedies that he has been through in his life, he has pushed through them in a way that is that is the most impressive thing about Joe Biden. And I had some reflection about that over the weekend. And he's lost 2 sons and a wife in either to cancer or to a car accident. So I give him full credit. That's what's inspiring about Joe Biden. And that's the only thing that's inspiring about Joe Biden. But that is. And so I want to segment that off from all the other comments and criticism that I make of him, because I do think that that's something that people can point to and say there's a connection to Biden's resilience, a deeply human and understandable and appreciable, or one that we should all appreciate, connection with Joe Biden. All right. So that aside, since I've said that that soliloquy, I guess you could call it that. Biden, with Bloomberg's dollars behind him, becomes the ultra-establishment candidate facing off against Bernie Sanders. And now you're just going to hear a lot of talk about electability again, including from the candidate. Play clip 3, producer Mark.
Do you think you can win this primary before the convention, or do you think it's inevitable though that you and Sanders may have to work this out at the convention?
I think I can win it before the convention. But again, I'm not. Look, all I know is I think we're moving into constituencies that are constituencies. When they hear me, they've always been mine. Diverse communities, white working class folks, people, the African Americans and Hispanics, people in the middle class, women in the suburbs. They're places I've always been very strong my whole career. One of the reasons why I was asked to join the ticket with Barack Obama in 2008, that hadn't changed. I think people know me, and it's a matter of my being able to get organizational structures on the ground in big states, and it looks good some places, it looks tough for others.
I think you can make a case either way as a conservative for what would be better for America. The lesser downside possibility of Biden winning the nomination, or the clarifying effect of Bernie winning the nomination and then getting defeated by Trump. I tend to fall in the latter category, but I can understand why people would be so concerned about a Bernie Sanders presidency. As I've been telling you, here's just a clear difference for me. If Bernie Sanders wins the presidency, I'm basically going into defensive crouch mode for all investments. I'm going to try to limit my exposure to his bad policies. And that's actually why I wrote with my friend at Stansberry Research this book, which will be coming out in the next 60 days, the Socialism Survival Guide, which is what can you do politically, economically, personally, what steps can you take if we start going deeper and deeper down this socialist rabbit hole. With Biden, things will be bad, but it'll be kind of like it was under Obama, where, all right, this isn't as good as it should be. A social justice focus on the economy just makes everybody more miserable and more poor. It really doesn't help the way that they say it will. But at least we know we'll get through it. I don't know if we come out of a Bernie presidency being the same America afterwards, or on the same trajectory as a country that we had been before. So the downside of feeling the burn is certainly a lot higher But we have Super Tuesday tomorrow. So here's how I think it's going to play out. No matter what you see in terms of the way the votes shake out, Bernie Sanders is going all the way. He's going all the way to the convention. And there is a very powerful behind-the-scenes Democrat apparatus that is going to try to take it from this guy. It was one thing I got to mention when I was on Bill Maher's show, and they tried to deny this. I'm like, this is what Democrats are saying. Stop. I really just sort of started yelling at the table, stop being crazy to them. That would be the best way that I could go about this. Like, you guys need to stop being crazy, but I don't know if that would have made it go even further off the rails than it did.
Let me say this. I, of course, will be supporting. I've said from the beginning, every Democrat is a million times better than Trump. Trump is a disaster. And let me say this. I mean, we're in South Carolina. Lindsey Graham's a disaster. He's a disaster for the people here. So, of course, I'll be working on that. And let me say one last thing. When the Lord closes a door, he opens a window. I will find that window and crawl through it with you. I promise you that.
I don't want Tom Steyer crawling in my window. Guy's weird. You see him doing the dance over the weekend? There's a video went viral of Tom Steyer busting out the dance moves. I don't know. These political candidates, you know, they apparently have not seen the movie Hitch, where Will Smith does those of us who are rhythm challenged a fantastic favor and shows us just how to stay at, he calls it home base. Just go side to side, little snaps, side to side. Just keep it tight, keep it close. Don't try to, you know, boogie woogie, do the twist, all that sort of stuff. If you're a politician who can't dance, you don't have, no one's forcing you to dance, Tom Steyer. But Tom Steyer is saying that he's going to back whoever the nominee is. He's out, so we won't see him show up with his one plaid tie. I'm sure he has probably 100, because he's a billionaire. He probably has 100 of the same tie, and he just thinks that it looks really cool for some reason. But yeah, Tom Steyer is out. Buttigieg is out. And that means that there's a narrowed field here. But where do those votes go? Do they go to Biden or do they go to Bernie? I'm telling you, in California, those people are out of their minds. California is going to be an avalanche for Bernie Sanders. Biden's going to get some delegates for sure, but the left coast is really now it's a socialist enclave. I mean, California has decided they're going to go with this stuff.
So if you want someone who talks turkey and who has a record of accomplishment on all the big issues facing our country and who has the resources to beat Trump, that's me. If you want a debater, you got the wrong guy here. So look, I give virtually all my company's profits to charity, and there's no better investment I can make in the future of our country than spending to get Donald Trump out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And if you think my campaign is expensive, just imagine what 4 more years of Donald Trump will cost our country. And somebody the other day said to me, you know, you're spending a lot of money. And I said, yes, I am. I'm spending the money to get rid of Donald Trump. And they go, oh, spend more, spend more.
Spend more. More money. Throw it all. Rivers of cash. Isn't it interesting, my friends, that we've been told so much by the Democrats about how Republicans are they're the class, they're the party of the rich, of the upper class, that Republicans are controlled by millionaires and billionaires and special interests. They're just writing the big checks to get those Republicans in office. And sure enough, the financial savior of the Democrat Party, it seems, comes along. They've not one but 2 billionaires. Well, now only one, but they had 2 billionaires running for president. And we're supposed to not notice that all the rhetoric about billionaires was just that. It was rhetoric. It was meant to fool the easily fooled. It was meant to convince people who don't do a lot of thinking for themselves that, yes, the Democratic Party somehow, for some reason, doesn't rely on big money and big cash donations the way that Republicans do. That there aren't ultra-rich elites at the top of the Democrat Party hierarchy. Find me a prominent Democrat politician, and I'll show you somebody who is probably very rich. Not a little rich, very rich. There's lots and lots of them. Bernie Sanders, you might say, is one of the few exceptions. I mean, Mayor Pete is the guy's my age. Of course, he doesn't. No one my age really has any money. Thanks, boomers. It's a conversation for another time. But you look at the people that are running the party, Pelosi and Schumer. You look at what's going on now with Bloomberg and their ultra-rich elites that are directing the Democratic Party in a way that they. Oh, by the way, Biden's worth like 30 or 40 million, I think. He's made $10 million speaking at least since he. And then when you add books and stuff, I don't know, maybe he's worth 20 million. He's worth tens of millions of dollars. Okay, Joe Biden. Yeah. Oh wow, that public service that works out really well. You get to be paid like you're a world-class professional athlete after you're in office. Isn't that interesting? So, this is now a point where we're going to see this breakdown between the hard left socialist party in this country that really does believe in this stuff. And I guess, this is why today I'll just have to infuse some of the show with my observations. I was on from the Bill Maher show on Friday, which, by the way, if you're going to watch it, just watch the panel, skip the rest of it. It'll drive you insane. And honestly, it's, I got interrupted so many times and there was so much over talking and cross talking and also just exposing oneself to that degree of delusion, I think is useful for me. It's a reminder that libs really do believe this crap. Like they think, and we'll get more into this with the coronavirus stuff, but you can't reason with them. They really think that Republicans just don't want people to have good health care. It's not that we have a different approach to making sure that there is more efficient, better delivery of healthcare for more people through market mechanisms. No. We just don't want poor people to have healthcare. And the poor people who vote Republican, and there are a lot of them, they just don't know anything. They don't know any better. They've just been fooled by the big, bad, mean, billionaire Republican class. This is like a fable that a child would tell himself or herself at night, but this is actually mainstream Democrat thinking now. And, on healthcare in particular, there is a complete lack of connection to reality from Democrats who think that, well, what happened before? Oh, that's right. The Democrats went ahead without a single Republican vote on Obamacare, put Obamacare through, and, what do you get? A massive Medicaid expansion. Okay, so more people have access to free healthcare. You know what the problem with that is? Medicaid isn't very good healthcare. And the healthcare decisions that one makes on one's own affect very much how much you're going to be able to benefit from Medicaid. I mean, a lot of the diseases, a lot of the spending in healthcare comes from lifestyle diseases and from old age. People that think that somehow if you have Medicaid coverage now, you're going to lead this long, healthy life, I mean, they're unfortunately mistaken. But this is how Democrats get through the socialist message. This is what they'll say, that we're going to make everyone's going to have health care. It's going to be great. We're going to be like other countries. What's lost, other countries like Canada and the UK, what's lost in all this is that we're the financial engine for the whole world. We're the ones that are actually coming up with the most cures and new treatments for diseases that are out there, new medical therapies across the board. That's happening here more than anywhere else. We're the ones that, when our market goes down, the whole world's market feels the effects very quickly. Canada can be a little more left wing as long as America's next door keeping the world safe and propping up the global economy and the global markets. But if we start taking the approach that some of these more they're not even truly socialist countries, which I know we keep getting bogged down in this. I mean, England is not a socialist country. It has a socialist healthcare system and an increasingly separate private sector healthcare system. These are not socialist countries, but promising to give everybody free healthcare, there's an emotional appeal. I mean, the Democratic Party effectively is built upon emotion over reason. It is built upon promises over history. That's what we are now up against all the time. Conservatives, Republicans, we look at experience, we look at what has worked, what is true, and then try to apply those lessons in the policies that we support and in the decisions that we make. Democrats look at the past and say, well, that isn't really relevant for what we're looking at now, especially on economic issues, on healthcare, on socialism. That's not relevant for what we're looking at now. Let's just do it a better way this time, but we'll use the failed principles and tenets of past governments and past countries in order to get there. And if you tell them, well, hold on a second, here are the reasons why that won't work, they'll respond with, why are you a bad person? Why do you want people to be without health care? Why do you want coronavirus to spread with, the stuff that they say is so brainless. But there's really a death of discourse in this country right now. And that was honestly what was on display on the Bill Maher show. I mean, you can't even have a normal discussion with these people. It's all Trump bad, Orange man bad, Trump is a liar. That's it. You say, well, hold on, what about this? What about that? What about the decision to pull U.S. troops out of Afghanistan contingent upon this agreement that's been signed with the Taliban, which I'll talk about? No. Trump lies. Trump's bad. Well, but I thought you guys wanted the war to end. Oh, no. Stormy Daniels, Mueller probe, impeachment. I mean, the brain, it's like they've been hardwired. The synapses only fire a certain way. And whenever you talk to a liberal about Trump, it just turns, this is what Trump derangement is. I mean, I was exposed to Trump derangement where people just want to yell and talk over and say really stupid, objectively stupid things, but it feels good to say it because they've been trained that that's what the good people say. And the rest of this is the essence of Trump derangement syndrome. You don't deal with the subject matter. You don't deal with the policy. You just dive in immediately to how terrible Trump is. I mean, this is what you get Tom Steyer, for example. And this is affecting the Democrat race. I mean, you hear it all the time. Any Democrat is 1,000,000 times better than Trump. Really? Any Democrat is 1,000,000 times better than Trump. What exactly is so terrible? I mean, they don't have to agree with all of Trump's wins and restoration of rule of law when it comes to sanctuary cities or securing the border, although doesn't a secure border look pretty good right now, considering we're trying to stop a global pandemic from being unleashed inside of American borders? And wouldn't the promise of free first world health care to the developing world for anyone who crosses our borders make us at greater risk for the intentional infiltration of individuals who are near enough to the border to cross, who have coronavirus and are like, I want to get to a U.S. hospital ASAP. Turn myself in. Let's go. What do you think will happen if you show up at the U.S. border and you try to do the usual asylum scam that's been done now for years and Trump's been fighting against? You show up at the border and you want to go through that asylum scam, and then you say, oh, and by the way, I think I have coronavirus. They're not going to be able to say, oh, sorry, you don't get to stay here under the way the Democrats want it, under the way the current law would probably work out. You end up getting taken into U.S. healthcare facilities. I mean, think about the expense here. But this is the world the Democrats want. You are not allowed to worry about your health and your neighbor's health. You have to worry about the whole world's health. Your labor, your time, the government can take that from you to try to give it to other people all over the world because we're all one human race, man. Ultimately, this is the dissolution of the nation-state system in the name of a feel-good internationalism, and that's really what the Democrats think that they want. I mean, there's the pretense. If you push them on this, they would say no, but it is what they say they ultimately believe in. So we shall see how this all works out. And now I have to get into coronavirus and what is going on there.
I find it incomprehensible that the president would do something as inane as calling it a hoax, which he did last night in South Carolina.
He said that the Democrats making so much of it is a Democratic hoax, not that the virus was a hoax.
This is up to the scientists and the doctors as to whether there is a problem. They all around the world say that it is in some places and has enormous potential to become one elsewhere. And it is just ignorant and irresponsible to not stand up and be the leader and say, we don't know, but we have to prepare for the fact that if it is, we have the medicines and the structure and the knowledge to deal with it.
This is a perfect example of Trump derangement syndrome. It's one that I dealt with on the Bill Maher show Friday. When at the top of the panel, the first thing that was posed was, Trump has called this a hoax. Discuss. And I tried to I try to say, no, there are two discussions going on in this country. One is about what to do here. Everyone knows there's a disease. Everyone knows there's this virus out there. And the other is the blame shifting or the blaming. It's not even shifting. It's just putting blame on Trump before anything has even happened in this country about this. We don't know what they're, but to say that the president has called coronavirus a hoax is a huge and stupid lie. And when you have to respond to a huge and stupid lie, it's very difficult. And then people, I tried to establish for them, no, this is not, is Scott Pelley some right-wing hack? To his credit on CBS, he's like, no, that's not what the president said. Bill Maher panel, you can go watch it. That's exactly, president's called this a hoax. He lies. This is what ends up happening. I sit here and say, no. Are we going to talk about the response? Because there's a lot of real things to dive into about how concerned should we be? What can we do? What are the proper precautions? What are the proper measures? What government agencies need what? I mean, there's this, it's like we're going off to war, and Democrats just want to just scream, oh, he's lost the war. He's lost the war already. He's lost it. No, he lost the war. Like a bunch of moronic toddlers that have been trained to say this. No offense to toddlers out there, but you know what I mean? Like little kids who don't know anything. As we know, Democrats love kids who don't know anything if they can spout their political slogans. How dare you? Getting better at that. So this is a perfect example. And Bloomberg is caught on this by Pelley. Pelley's like, look, I mean, that's not, and by the way, he's not sharper than me. He just says, well, that's not really what was said. No, it's not what was said at all. Think about this. The Democrats like to believe. It makes them feel good. They feel intelligent, clinging to this notion that Donald Trump is calling a disease that his administration set a task force up over a month ago when they were busy impeaching the president over crap, over nothing. When they were impeaching Trump, Trump was pulling together a task force, and they were questioning whether or not there was enough diversity in a photo of that task force on coronavirus. If the president thought this was a hoax, why is he giving speeches about this? If the president did not believe that this was a serious issue, why are we hearing from Dr. Fauci, NIH, CDC, all the requests for billions of dollars of funding, regular updates to the administration, Pence set up as the coronavirus, czar might not be the right word, coordinator, point guy, whatever you want to call him. But they're saying he thinks it's a hoax? How do you have, this is why, and if you did see the show on Friday, you'll see what I mean. And other than just, they constantly talk over me. And at some point you just, if you're not able to speak, it's like trying to give a speech at a college with all the idiots that'll pound on the windows and all yell and blare bullhorns and stuff, or, a foghorns, whatever, bullhorn, foghorn, same idea. There's only so much you can really do. But the initial premise that Trump called coronavirus a hoax, that is a lie. And for people to then transition to Trump lies while they are lying about him is, in a sense, the ultimate in Trump derangement syndrome. Like, this is the distillation. This is in its purest form, 100% unadulterated TDS is apparent the moment that they have to lie about Trump so that they can say that he's a liar. And that's where we are as a country. That's where the discussion is now politically. People that hate Trump, you cannot talk to them. You cannot address them, even on issues that are not specifically Trump related. They'll bring it back to Trump. Trump is a liar. They're just nuts. I don't know how else we can describe it. They've just completely come unhinged, unglued over the president. That's why, Mike Bloomberg, is he so stupid that he does not know what the president said? No. But he really believes the rhetoric that the president's a clear and present danger. One point that I made on the show on Friday was that no matter what you think of Trump, he does not want this to be a pandemic here. No matter who you are, no matter how terrible, if you think Trump is a traitor and a racist and a rapist and all these other just lies that they spread about the president all the time, he wants the number of people who die from coronavirus in the United States. He wants it to be zero. Now we know it's 2 people. He wants it to be the lowest number possible. They won't even they won't even accept that. They won't even concede that it is in the president's interest for coronavirus not to spread all across the United States.